Greetings and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention Weekly News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and I'm the host of this podcast. I'm also the president of the We the People Convention organization. And this podcast and our wonderful website, our text messages, our emails, our social media, our donations to other conservative groups, our fight to protect and defend your and my individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity are all paid for by the generous donations of the donors to the We the People Convention. And if you can help fund our fight to protect and defend individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, just go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the donate button. You can see that it's still dark outside as we are up this morning a bit early. We have some family obligations to take care of, so we needed to get the podcast done a little bit earlier. So we'll watch the sunrise together, okay? And it'll be beautiful. I had one of our members write to me and say, Tom, you welcome all the new people, and I do want to welcome everyone, fellow citizens, fellow patriots, even non-citizens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Those of you who've been with us for 16 years and those who are new, because as again, I've been saying, we're on now, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and MeWe and Getter and True Social and X and everything else. And so we're getting new people. And one of our longtime supporters, Dave, wrote to me and said, Tom, the new people don't really understand how important this organization is and what you've done. And it's hard for me because I just don't like bragging about ourselves. It just makes me uncomfortable. But he suggested I just open the show for those of you who are new to just kind of explain who are the We the People Convention? What have we accomplished? And so I'm just going to hit like 3 points, bang, bang, bang. One of the main things we did is and I personally was the lead plaintiff in the federal cases against the Obama administration in the IRS targeting the Tea Party. And we fought that. I was in court with the ACLJ for 6 years, and we won both cases, including a $3.2 million settlement that went to hundreds of Tea Party groups around the country. We did that. We also elected Donald Trump president. And those of you who are newer go, oh, yeah, you guys elected Donald Trump president. No, we elected Donald Trump president. Donald Trump is never president of the United States if he does not win Ohio in 2016. And when no one in Ohio thought Donald Trump could win, We the People Convention partnered with the NRA, recruited tens of thousands of volunteers, knocked on doors and just made phone calls like the NRA's never seen. And if Donald Trump does not win Northeast Ohio, where we're located, again, my beginnings are the Portage County Tea Party, which is in Northeast Ohio. And if Donald Trump doesn't win Northeast Ohio, he doesn't win Ohio, and he doesn't become president of the United States. And many of you will remember back in 2016, when they announced the Ohio results, because Hillary Clinton was supposed to win by 11%, but we did our own polling, and we knew that Donald Trump was going to win Ohio. And when that came out, it just rocked everybody. Trump wins Ohio. So, we elected Donald Trump president of the United States. And then in 2020, when they stole the election, this organization, with your donations, took out a full-page ad in the Washington Times asking President Trump to declare limited martial law, temporary limited martial law, and to hold a revote of the 2020 election because we knew it was stolen. And when we took that ad out with the help of our good friend, General Mike Flynn, that's when we became a national organization. We had over 1 million people come to our website that day. And that's when we became a national organization. Now we have members in all 50 states, and that's the way we've been going since then. And then one last thing, we were at January 6th, and we stayed with our brothers and sisters, and we fought. We fought every day to help the January 6th political prisoners. Many of you, remember, and you can find them on our website, our interviews with Jake Lang and others. We raised money. We took action to get the people in government to do things, and we played a role in getting President Trump to give pardons to all of them. So that's who we are. If you're new, that's who we are. And so in this podcast, we're going to talk about what happened this week that affects you and I, that is important, that you need to know. And then we're going to suggest actions. We don't just talk about it. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to inform you. And then I'm here to help you take action this week to protect your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, and help us restore America to greatness, to, as Trump says, make America great again. So I hope that was okay, to kind of let you know who we are and what we've done. We're sure glad to have you with us watching this podcast, and we hope that you'll be, really happy with what we produce, okay, what we show you today. So let's get on with it, right? And the big news of the week was the shutdown is over. And so on Sunday, moderate Dems break with radicals in vote to reopen the government in the Senate. There were 8 Democrats that crossed over, and it was a 60-40 vote, which is the minimum. You had to have 60, and we got 60. The U.S. Senate voted to end the Democratic filibuster on a funding bill, which is set to end the government shutdown. On Sunday evening, following an unusually busy weekend at the Capitol that saw bipartisan negotiations and all-nighters by legislative staff, enough Democrats had voted for the proposal to all but ensure that at least 60 senators will agree to invoke cloture of the funding bill. Finalization of the procedural vote was delayed as Senator John Cornyn from Texas was not present, and the vote was 59-40. However, hours after the vote began, Cornyn rushed to the Capitol from Dulles International Airport, Virginia, after days of brutal flight delays nationwide. Cornyn cast a 60th vote for the bill around 11 p.m. Among cheers from other members of the chamber. Again, the final toll was 60-40. So there was a bit of drama that went with that. Then it went to the House on Wednesday. They passed it. And kind of a surprising thing, there were 6 Democrats who crossed over in the House. And Hakeem Jeffries just folded like a cheap tent. He could have filibustered it. He had this ability to delay it, and he didn't do it. And it passed the House. So President Trump that night, President Donald Trump on November 12th signed a bill passed by both chambers to fund the government until January, formally bringing an end to the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Today, Trump said, we're sending a clear message that we will never give in to extortion, which is what the Democrats were doing. And we'll talk in detail about that. Trump said from the Oval Office shortly before signing the bill, referring to the Democrats' demand that had driven the previous standoff. Trump also repeated calls to end the filibuster, and this is critical. This is an important part of our conversation today. The 60-vote Senate rule that enabled the shutdown. The president signed the bill at around 10:25 p.m. local time, approximately 2 hours after the House passed the bill in a bipartisan vote. Okay, and here's just a short clip of what Trump had to say when he signed it.
I just want to tell you the country has never been in better shape. We went through this short-term disaster with the Democrats because they thought it would be good politically. And it's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you.
So there you have it. I don't know if it was an incredible bill, because it was the same old. It's the same spending that's put us in $38 trillion of debt going towards 39. That is overspending annually by like $1.8 trillion. And, the country's in great shape, except for the fact that all this interruption was costing, I think, like $15 billion a day. Trump also said on Truth Social, the Democrats are cracking like dogs on the shutdown because they are deathly afraid that I am making progress, Republicans, on terminating the filibuster. Whether we make a deal or not, the Republicans must blow up the filibuster and approve hundreds of long sought but never gotten policy wins, like, as just a small example, voter identification and no mail-in ballots. Only a loser would not agree to doing this. You and I, this is the first ask of the show, you need to be talking to your senators and say, It's not good enough that you ended the filibuster. I'm telling you, the moderate Dems came together with the RINO Republicans because they don't want to end the filibuster, because the Republicans don't want to implement the MAGA agenda. They don't want to pass the bills that finally clean up our crappy immigration system, that finally stop mail-in voting, that get our nation back on the right course. And last week I showed you Trump had a list of 2 pages long of bills that need to be passed. How many of those are going to get passed if we don't get rid of the filibuster? Yeah, I could probably count them on one finger. All right. So anyway, President Trump's always positive and he's the ultimate salesman. But here's our problem. We didn't win anything on this. We didn't win anything. We haven't cut crap. And they have to do this again in January. It only goes until January 31st. They're trying to do all the appropriations bills, which I give Speaker Johnson lots of credit for. Folks, we've talked about this before. Appropriations are how your representative in Congress actually gets to represent you. And they haven't done them for 26 years. And so you've had zero representation from your congressman. Okay? So hats off to the House for doing the appropriations. They have like 8 of them done. They need to do 12 of them. They passed like 3 of them with this CR. Okay? But where are the cuts? Where are the cuts that DOJ shows? All right? And we're going to talk about more cuts that I'm wondering, where are they? But let's get to the heart of the matter, because I posted this and you need to share this article because it explains everything. All right? The Dems shut down government to protect their donor health insurance companies. If you're watching the video, you can see this chart where United Healthcare, their stock prices went up almost 2,000% since Obamacare. Cigna, 822%. Anthem, 414%. Humana, 490%. Every one of them is like 500-600%. Aetna, 500-some%. This was about the Democrats when the big beautiful bill, is making changes for health care. And guess what? This whole thing was a problem created by the Dems way back when the Tea Party started, when Barack Obama put out government health care, which is what Obamacare was, and tried to name it the Affordable Health Care Act. And it turned out to be exactly what you and I said it was. It wasn't affordable. It's raised our costs for healthcare to the highest in the world. And we have a crappy healthcare system because they got rid of all of our family doctors who could make their own decisions and run their own businesses. And they jammed us all into these hospitals who did nothing but abuse us and steal our money. And no one did that more than the healthcare, quote unquote, healthcare companies. The Obamacare secret at the heart of the shutdown, insurers made billions at taxpayer expense and funded the left. The 42-day federal shutdown forced by Democrats thrust the economics of Obamacare into the limelight and exposed an uncomfortable truth. The insurance industry, whose executives are increasingly liberal donors, have seen its earnings soar with the injection of taxpayer-funded subsidies that propped up Barack Obama's signature health program from collapse. Without the subsidies, it collapses, okay? The nation's largest health insurance companies have seen good business since Obamacare was first passed in 2010 and fully implemented in 2014. This has come in no small part because the federal government subsidies the insurance industry, which government estimates show totaled $1.8 trillion in 2023 alone, okay? And guess what? 85% of the donations, political donations made by the healthcare industry goes to Democrats. Trump said this on Truth. Democrats claim to be working for the little guy and driving down your health insurance costs, but the Obamacare scam goes straight to their best friends in the insurance industries. They are making a killing while health coverage only gets worse. If Democrats get their way again, they're in for another huge payday at the expense of the American people. Trump said, no deal. Republicans should give money directly to your personal health savings account, and I expanded in our great, beautiful bill. And so we're going to talk more about that. Folks, there's in Obamacare, we literally give these subsidies to the healthcare companies. They use, and you're all getting the mailings right now because, right, if you're a senior citizen, they're trying to get you to sign up for their Medicare prescription, Part G and B and C and D plans, all that stuff. Okay. Well, why is that? Because they sign you up and get money from the federal government, from you and I, from taxpayers in the healthcare industries. They all sign you up and then you don't make any claims. There's no connection between, when you make a claim, the government gives them money. No. We give them trillions of dollars and then they just pocket it and donate it to Democrats. And that's why they shut down the government, because they were trying to protect their donors. That's how bad this was. You need to share that story. Go to wethepeopleconvention.org and share that story. And so then they're saying, first of all, it's so hilarious because they're making the case that Trump shut down the government and the Republicans won't open the government. And then when they open the government, all the lefty media and all the Democrats say, they stopped us from shutting down the government. They admitted they shut down the government. It's hilarious and it's stupid. And you need to show that. And so now, when they're saying, Trump is starving people, and leftist court judges are saying Trump must pay SNAP even though the money's not there and all that stuff, now they're angry and horrified that SNAP benefits, food stamps are being restored. Democrats are furious, righteously angry, in a total meltdown. How could those traitorous Democrat senators betray our cause? Gee, I thought the shutdown was the worst thing ever. It was all Donald Trump's fault. People were starving after all, without SNAP benefits flowing. There would soon be corpses in the street and bodies floating down every waterway in America because Trump is so evil. And he did it and we didn't. Except liberals on Blue Sky on MSNBC are furious that the Democrats caved, or more precisely that 8 Democrats voted to end the filibuster and get the basic functions of government going again. Even if it's a new budget standoff breaks out, only a few appropriations bills have actually been resolved. The SNAP beneficiaries won't suffer any cuts because now they funded it for the whole year. You would think that of all the people who would be thrilled that the money for poor America started flowing again, it would be the Democrats, the left, the progressives. Wrong. Nobody is more upset by the pain ending than progressives. They are absolutely furious. Why? It's simple. Progressives actually want to turn up the pain and pressure on the American public because they believe it enhances their power. We've been talking about this all month, right? I told you last week, they're not going to end it because they want the pain. They want to create riots. We talked about that. And that's why Trump's threat of ending the filibuster made them come back. That was key. If Trump doesn't say that, folks, we're still shut down. I guarantee it. We're still shut down. Okay? It is essentially a strategy. This is essentially a strategy in revolutionary politics. And one of the key reasons that leftism, terror, and terrorism always go together. They always go together. All right? So now we got real problems for the left because this shutdown forced people to look at Obamacare and to look at SNAP. And guess what? There's going to be big losses on the left. Why is that? How about this? Now we're seeing how much fraud there is in SNAP, right? How many people are just abusing the system? 500,000 double dippers, 5,000 dead people found on the SNAP rolls in 29 states. So what's this about? Okay, across 350 United States, the Trump administration has found 500,000 people receiving SNAP benefits twice, meaning they're double dipping in multiple states. One guy was getting SNAP benefits in 6 states. I'm not kidding you. 5,000 dead people receiving them. In deep blue states, the fraud is probably much worse, but the blue states are refusing to give the government the information about their SNAP recipients. Now get this, the federal government, you and I, our tax dollars fund these food stamps for 42 million Americans, which is a disgrace. It used to be 19 million. People who need it should get it, but that's not what's going on. Illegals are getting it. So that's why the blue states won't give up the data. But we're in court and they're going to have to. And if they don't, we've got to cut off the money. It is important to clarify that the 20 plus states out of the 50 did not comply with the federal government's request for information on SNAP beneficiaries, likely because they are now trying to hide how many illegal aliens are illicitly receiving food stamps. So the horrifying numbers revealed by Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins on Laura Ingraham's Fox News show are actually incomplete and will probably be much higher if the administration can make radical Democrat states provide the necessary data. It's real simple. You don't get the money. We can make them. We're going to make them. We have to make them. Rollins, having mentioned the blue states' incomplete SNAP data, stated that of the 29 states that complied, we have found it staggering. And I said the 500,000 people and all that stuff. The secretary continued to list off food stamp recipient statistics. 80% of the people getting food stamps are able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work, they don't have small children at home, they're not taking care of an elderly parent. 80% of these people are grifters. They can work and they choose not to work. So guess what? This week, at the end of the week, they're now saying they're going to make everyone reapply for SNAP benefits to prove that you can do it. And there's work benefits now in the big, beautiful bill. We can cut the $43 billion that it costs for SNAP down to probably 20% of that. It's a scandal. It's a scam. And so some good things came out of it. And like I said, Obamacare, remember, the Republicans did not cave. To their credit, Thune and Johnson deserve a ton of credit, but it's all because of Trump. They didn't cave because Trump said you're not going to cave or you'll pay, okay? But the important thing was, remember, the Democrats wouldn't vote for a CR, a clean CR that they had voted for 13 times before, because this is Nancy Pelosi's budget. This is Joe Biden's budget. This is, for years, the same budget. No cuts. They wouldn't vote for it because they wanted $1.5 trillion in medical coverage for illegal aliens and for these other Obamacare subsidies. Thune did not compromise. He did not give, like Trump said, no deal. All he said is, I promise you there will be a vote in December. And so there'll be a vote because we got a real problem. People's premiums are going through the roof. But we can't just keep doing what we're doing. So they're going to do something to put some restrictions on Obamacare to get more people off the rolls, the illegals and all that. And they're going to extend the subsidies to make sure people don't have too much pain. But it's going to be way reduced. And so, again, that's a good thing. We got to get rid of Obamacare. Oh, yeah. Remember back in 2016 when the Republicans told us they had a plan to repeal Obamacare because we in the Tea Party were saying this is just, it's just a horrible thing. It doesn't work. It'll raise the cost of health care and it'll give us worse health care. Absolutely what happened, right? And Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, remember, and Donald Trump gets elected and he's like, okay, let's repeal Obamacare. We have a plan, they said. They had no plan. They loved it. They wanted it because they were getting money from the executives, healthcare executives. This is on the Republicans, folks. They should have done this in 2017. And now it's 2026. So what are the lessons, right? What are some of the lessons we should learn? So I posted this article at wethepeopleconvention.org. Lessons from the longest shutdown they don't want us to learn. And it's a really interesting article. And so I'd ask you to go look at that. Another ask, okay? Another ask. So first ask was call your senators and say, you've got to get rid of the filibuster. You've got to pass the MAGA agenda. Executive orders don't cut it. We want legislation. We want laws to change our country and our government for the better, okay? To protect our freedom and liberty, okay? Ask number one. Ask number two, share this article because the longest government shutdown in U.S. history has yielded an unexpected revelation. Our federal workforce is far larger than our daily functions require. For weeks, nearly half of all federal employees were told not to report to work. Yet planes continued to fly, barely. Mail was delivered, and the country endured with only mild inconvenience. This is not to downplay the hardship experienced by families missing paychecks, but to confront a deeper truth about how many federal positions may be unnecessary. With 670,000 workers can be furloughed and 730,000 others continue operating the essential machinery of the state, it raises a question that transcends partisan lines. What precisely are we paying for? These 670,000 workers weren't working. So do we need them? The term non-essential is not a political label. It is the government's own classification. During the funding lapse, each agency distinguishes between what must continue and what can pause. Air traffic controllers, border patrol, and military personnel keep working. Offices that issue grants, review environmental paperwork, or manage social media accounts do not. Yet the republic remains intact. The empirical test, an unplanned experiment, the longest shutdown in history, has shown that the federal payroll is completely out of line. Okay? The government can operate for months with half its workers idle. It most certainly can operate permanently going forward. Read that article and share it. I'm disappointed. I hope you're disappointed. Remember, I hyped up Russ Vought. Here comes the Reaper. We're going to cut all these jobs. We didn't cut anything. Why? What happened? They're not necessary. Got to ask that question. Ask your senators and congressmen about that. Okay? So then in the middle of this, the RINOs expose themselves again. And this was disgusting. And we were one of the first people to put this out thanks to the Daily Wire. I saw this. I immediately put it on our website and sent you an email or a text about this. And if you aren't getting our emails and texts, go to wethepeopleconvention.org, write on a thing, sign up to get our texts and emails because I send things to you that need action immediately and that day. So this story came out. Senators targeted by Jack Smith take care of themselves, but don't take care of us. Okay? So in the middle of this, we're fighting to reopen the government. Okay? We've got a crisis with air traffic control, which, by the way, I think that Trump did that on purpose. I think the air traffic control thing was contrived. I really mean that. He could have brought in military air traffic controllers. We could have done other things. Again, the threat to end the filibuster and the air traffic control was to squeeze the Dems, okay? And it worked. But this is disgusting. Provisions slipped into the CR. So they're voting on Sunday night, and at the last minute, they slip in this provision that will allow senators to sue for damages if the government accessed their records without their knowledge. So the 8 senators who Jack Smith targeted, okay, slipped this in, but they didn't slip in any chance for the January 6th political prisoners to get compensated when they were spied on. They didn't slip that in for you and I who got spied on. They didn't do anything for us. These sleazebags were self-serving, taking care of themselves. The provision was included in a bill that funded the legislative branch and was part of the package passed by the Senate to end the government shutdown. It would allow senators to sue for damages if the government accessed their records without their knowledge. Any senator whose data or Senate data of those Senate offices have been acquired, subpoenaed, searched, accessed, or disclosed in violation of this section may bring a civil action against the United States if the violation was committed by an officer, employee, or agent in the United States or any federal department or agency, meaning Jack Smith. The provision applies when their Senate data was acquired, okay, by spying. The senators would then be entitled, get this, each one up to $500,000 per violation. And they would have 5 years from the date of learning of the infraction to bring this suit. How about that? How about for taking care of themselves? These guys are rich as can be, and they're going to make you and I, remember, when you sue the government, and we've had this conflict of interest, you're suing yourself. It was sick. One member of the House actually voted against the bill because of this, and Speaker Johnson said, we're going to repeal this. He said, I've talked to Thune, and this is nonsense. It's just a bad look, and we're going to repeal this. So talk to your House members and your senators and make sure they do, okay? But this is the sleaze bags that we're counting on to save our country. Republicans. You know, it was just unbelievable they would do this. Unbelievable. I understand you want to push back on what the Biden administration did. That's not, enriching yourself is not the way to do it. I hope you will agree. Okay? So speaking of sleaze bags, what do the Democrats do now? Right? The jig is up. They got nothing. They got nothing from the shutdown. They are big losers, and they're calling for Schumer to step down, and they're calling for, Hakeem Jeffries is in trouble, and they're in total meltdown. They got nothing. So what did they do? Oh, on the day that we vote to open the government, they do this. Democrats released 3 cherry-picked Epstein emails, so the GOP released 20,000. It was pathetic. They're so pathetic. They've got nothing. And you know what's great? I'm glad they did this. Because what does it do? Within hours, what the emails they put out were totally debunked, and it shows people you can't trust them. So you are going to have to share this story with the people who might be fooled. Because, Trump was Epstein's best buddy and he's a pedophile and all that crap, and it's all a lie. All right, so here's the story. Democrats thought they had a winning hand when they released 3 carefully selected Jeffrey Epstein emails on Wednesday morning. The timing was no accident. With their caucus still reeling from their base turning on them from caving on the government shutdown, they needed a distraction, and they believed these emails would deliver one. They were wrong. Now get this. Their base is furious that they caved and Trump won again. Oh, look at over here. Here's a distraction. And it worked. There were statistics. MSNBC spent 2 hours on this lie that night. 2 hours. All the ABC, CBS, NBC spent half an hour. Oh, a scandal. New Epstein emails. Fox News spent 5 minutes because it was bogus. Here's why it's bogus. The so-called bombshell of 3 email exchanges, the crown jewel of their selective leak, was a 2011 email between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in which Epstein described Trump as the dog that hasn't barked. He noted that a victim had spent hours with Trump at Epstein's house. Democrats redacted the victims' names in their release of the emails, but we know exactly who they were talking about. The woman's name is Virginia Giuffre. The reason for the redaction becomes clear when you learn that Giuffre, who they're saying was accusing Trump, they redacted her name to make it look scandalous and scurrilous. The reason for the redaction became clear when you learn that Giuffre has actually said under oath. She testified that she never witnessed Trump engage in any wrongdoing. She stated that Trump never acted inappropriately with her, and that she never saw Trump and Epstein together, and that she never saw Trump at any of Epstein's homes. Her memoirs reinforce this point, making abundantly clear that Trump had 0 involvement with Epstein's illegal activities. Then Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer who actually was Epstein's lawyer, came out that night and said, I was his lawyer. I knew everything. I went through a list of names with Epstein and said, did this person do anything? Did this person do anything? Because as Epstein's lawyer, I was trying to get him a better deal by giving up evidence to the state. And I asked, Alan Dershowitz said, I asked him about Trump, and he said Trump did nothing. Trump did nothing. So I'm going to make this easy for you guys because we take action and I want you to share. So the thing I want you to share, and this will be on our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org. We link all the stories, okay? So the story will be about the Epstein release of emails. This video is what you want to share because it says it all. Watch this.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. Just left the House floor and I tried to do a UC, unanimous consent of I tried to get the Epstein files, get it straight to the floor, just to cut out all this nonsense. And, and the Democrats blocked it, oddly enough. Now here they've had it for 4 years, and they, obviously if there's something there about Trump, they would have released it. And now they're all, let's get it out, let's get it out. Well, I just made a motion to bring it straight to the dadgum floor, and they blocked it. They blocked it. So this is politics. It has nothing to do with what's doing what's right. And it's Washington, D.C. to a T. And again, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, but they're probably not.
Yeah, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They're probably not. There it is. The Dems said, oh, release the Epstein files. You're hiding it. Speaker Johnson, you're hiding it. And then he goes to the floor and says, unanimous consent. We're having a vote right now to release the Epstein files. And the Democrats vote no. Why? Like he said, they've had these since Obama. They had it in the first Trump administration. They had it in the whole Biden administration. They had all the emails. Why don't they want to release them? Why do they only want to release these 3 pieces of garbage to try to implicate Trump? Because all of their donors are the Epstein clients. So Speaker Johnson is going to fast track it. They released like 20,000 pages of documents. Okay, they still haven't released the names, so we'll see what happens. But there's your proof. They're liars. They're hypocrites. And that's good for us because the more you show they're liars and hypocrites, the less people will ever trust them or believe them. Share it. Share that video. Okay? All right. On with the rest of the stories here. So in the shutdown, we had all these workers who were, having to work without pay. So Kristi Noem awarded TSA staff $10,000 bonuses for working during the shutdown. Let me share this with you. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem handed out 10,000 bonus checks on November 13th to thousands of frontline Transportation Security Administration officers who stayed on the job during the federal government shutdown. About 47,000 agents who worked through the 43-day shutdown, despite not getting a paycheck, will be awarded a bonus along with back pay, according to Noem. We're going to not only continue their paychecks like they should have received all along, but we're also going to get a bonus check for stepping up, taking on extra shifts, for showing up each and every day, for serving the American people. Noem says at a news conference at the George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston, Texas. The officers were thanked for their taking seriously every day the mission of the Department of Homeland Security and keeping the American people safe while they go and commute across the country and while they do their work and business. Okay, so I thought that was appropriate. You reward the people who are good. Here's my problem. Nobody that didn't work should get paid. What the hell is with this back pay nonsense? Seriously. If you work for a union and you shut down and you're on strike for 40 days, when you go back to work, they don't give you your back pay. What are we giving them back pay for? Now, the ones who worked should get back pay because they worked. I'm talking about the 675,000 workers. Why are they getting back pay? Call your Congress. Third ask of the show. Call your House members and say, why are they getting back pay? And why aren't they being fired? Because they're unnecessary. You gotta speak up. We're broke as a joke, and we're paying 675,000 people back pay for 43 days for not working, while many of them worked another job or did Uber or took a vacation. What the hell? Speak up. It's our money. And giving it away for no work. It's wrong. Now, this is right. This is what Trump is doing. It's right. Trump urges Senate, and he mentioned this in his one Truth Central post I read, urges Senate Republicans to redirect federal health insurance money to Americans, to you and I. What does that mean? I told you how Obamacare basically rigged the healthcare system to destroy our healthcare system, get rid of your family doctors, consolidate everything into these big, hospital monopolies that did not serve us, had all this overhead, gave us shitty care, okay, and enriched the healthcare companies. So how do you create a capitalistic market again? You sure as hell don't send these Obamacare subsidies to the healthcare companies and say, oh, don't raise their premiums. You know what you do? You send it to the American public. You say, oh, all you people are getting subsidies? Well, we're not gonna give the healthcare companies, whatever it was, $10,000 each or something to help you get cheaper insurance. We're gonna send each of you $5,000 and you're gonna go out and shop and watch what happens. Watch what happens to healthcare prices, insurance costs, and even hospital costs when they got to pay, they got to accept what you'll pay. This is brilliant. You have to demand, call your senators and House members and say, this is it. President Trump told you what to do. No money to the insurance companies. Send it to the people. It's capitalism. Obamacare is socialism. That's why we fought it. We don't want government health care. This is how you start to break it up. This is important, folks. This is how you and I have to fight to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. This is what we have to do, not just President Trump. Yeah, he made the suggestion he's going to put pressure on them. You have to put pressure on them. Go to their office in your community. Congressmen have offices in your community. Senators have offices all over your state. Go to their office and say, this has to be done. Get rid of the filibuster. Get rid of the healthcare subsidies to insurance companies. Give it to the American people. Don't pay the back pay. That's our job. That's what we got to do. Now, I told you last week that after the disasters, quote unquote, of the elections where we lost in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York, not surprisingly, but we did get some damage, right? We lost some things. We lost House seats in Virginia that we should have won. And what was the issue? The issue was quite simply, people are hurting. People are hurting. The economy is not good. And President Trump's been making a mistake going out talking about, the economy is terrific. No, it's not. No, it's not. Nan and I can barely afford to go out to eat. Many of you can't. Our donations are down significantly because you're hurting. I'm so thankful for every donation, but it's starting to hurt us because you don't have the money, and I understand. So President Trump is getting the message, but it doesn't help when he's doing an interview with Laura Ingraham, and he takes her on a tour of the White House, and you're seeing all this marble, and Trump's proud. He's a builder. He's a proud guy, and all these gold, images and gold, faucets and stuff like that. That doesn't help us. That doesn't help the American people. So now all week long, and J.D. Vance was interviewed, and it's all about affordability. And I said to you, if we don't get our house in order by this coming summer, where costs are down, really down, when life is more affordable, when houses are available, we're going to lose next year. Trump's getting it. So this is what he did on Friday. Trump cuts tariffs on goods like coffee, bananas, and beef in a bid to slash consumer prices. Way to go, Mr. President. President Donald Trump on Friday exempted key agricultural imports like coffee, cocoa, bananas, and certain beef products from his higher tariff rates. The move comes as Trump faces political blowback for high prices at U.S. grocery stores. Some distributors of beef, coffee, chocolate, and other common food items have raised prices as Trump tariffs took hold this year, adding to the pressure on household budgets created by decades-high inflation in recent years. There's no doubt your prices are as high as they are because of the inflation during the Biden years. Remember, at 1 year, Biden's inflation was 9%. Well, guess what? Those prices went up 9%. They don't go back down. And so now, even though inflation is like 2% or 2.1 or 3, they're still going up from that 9%. We got to fix that. You can't fix it easy, but Trump is wrong to try to tell you that it's fixed when it's not. Trump's actions Friday also exempted a range of fruits, including tomatoes, avocados, coconuts, oranges, and pineapples. We've been seeing the oranges have been terrible. Nan's just I'm buying them because they're so pathetic and so expensive. Along with coffee, the tariff reductions extend to black and green tea and spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. This will help. The move marks a reversal for Trump, who has insisted tariffs are not necessary to protect U.S. businesses and workers. He says they're necessary to protect U.S. business and workers. He has contended U.S. consumers will not ultimately pay for the higher duties. Well, they do, okay, but it's a blended thing, and I'm going to talk about that next. The exemptions came just a day after Trump reached trade framework agreements with 4 Latin American countries, including 10% tariffs on most goods from Argentina, Guatemala, and El Salvador, and 15% from Ecuador. It also removes duties specifically on products not grown or produced in the U.S. in sufficient quantities, like bananas and coffee. See, the problem was you couldn't get it anywhere else. You couldn't get it anywhere else. So if you have tariffs, then of course the price is going to go up. This is a good reversal. This means he's getting the message. Keep sending it, okay? But, I mean, it's unbelievable. Coffee prices have just soared. Ground roast coffee price in the U.S. reached $8.41 per pound in July, a record high and 33% increase from the prior year, okay? 50% tariffs on Brazilian coffee, which supplies roughly a third of U.S. firms, drove the costs across the things like Starbucks and people like that. Beef prices were up unbelievably from the past. Over the past year, U.S. imposed steep duties on major suppliers of beef, including Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, and Uruguay, the world's second largest beef producer. They had faced effective tariff rates on 75%. Driving down U.S. imports. The supply of beef, the price of beef have gone up like 46%. And so now Trump's going to make that come down. And he better. And that's a good thing. Okay? So no, help is coming. This study was in Breitbart about tariffs that is very, very, very interesting. Fed study indicates Trump trade policies. It vindicates Trump's trade policies. 150 years of evidence shows tariffs lower inflation, which is what we're seeing. But the markets and the experts keep saying, no, he's wrong. Trump is a brilliant financial mind. That's how he became a billionaire, folks. He didn't have daddy's money. Yeah, his dad had some money, but he didn't have billions. Donald Trump is brilliant financially, whether you like his personality or not. It's just a fact. But this is interesting. A sweeping new analysis of tariff policy spanning 150 years suggests that the economic establishment may have fundamentally misunderstood how tariffs affect prices and employment, a finding with profound implications for understanding President Donald Trump's trade policy and the proper response by the Federal Reserve. Researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco examined major tariff changes from 1870 through 2020 across the United States, United Kingdom, and France. Their conclusions challenges the conventional wisdom that dominates economic policy debates in recent years. When countries raise tariffs, prices actually fall, not rise. We find that a tariff hike raises unemployment and lowers inflation, the authors Regis Barkhan and Asha Singh write in their working paper released this month. This goes against the predictions of standard models whereby CPI inflation should go up in response to higher tariffs. They don't. They go down. The finding arises at a politically charged moment as Trump administration has implemented tariffs, increasing average tariffs average of 18% on U.S. imports. But here's the thing about their study. It says that tariffs raises unemployment and lowers inflation. Normally, except for one thing, the unemployment thing. So Trump is not saying we're just going to raise tariffs to raise money. He is forcing these companies to reshore manufacturing, which creates jobs. And so with Trump's tariffs, he's going to lower inflation and raise employment and raise wages. It's brilliant. And this story is the proof. So I urge you to go and look at it in our webpage, the podcast page. It'll be linked under this week's, topics. Okay? So that's very interesting. Always good to have proof, have evidence that Trump is right and they are wrong. Okay? Now, those things I think are right. This thing, I'm not sure. Roosevelt created the 30-year mortgage. Trump wants a 50-year mortgage. Why? I saw that and my head exploded. And I'm sure many of you saw it and your head exploded. And a lot of people on the right are like, President Trump, this, 50 years of debt, you'll never own your house, you'll pay more interest and all that. Well, there's a guy on X called AmuseX, AMUSEX, who, I don't know who this guy is, and he posts a lot of stories and they're really good and he has a lot of good information. And I get his emails as well as following him on X, and you should follow him on X and follow us, Tom ZWTPC, because that's where I post fast breaking things. Go to x.com and then search for Tom ZWTPC and follow us and then repost what I post. Okay. So he posted this story and I put it on our website. And before you just reject the 50-year mortgage out of hand, read this article. It was really interesting. I had no idea other countries have done this and that it works. I had no idea. President Trump's 50-year mortgage proposal represents a natural evolution of a uniquely American idea. In the 1930s, Franklin Delano Roosevelt introduction of the 30-year mortgage under the New Deal made home ownership attainable for millions. Before the Depression, mortgage lasted 3 to 5 years, demanded a 40 or 50% down payment, and required a balloon payment at maturity. Only the rich could own a home. Okay, only the rich. Few could qualify. When the housing market collapsed, millions lost their homes. FDR created the Federal Housing Administration, and the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage reversed that decline. By spreading payments out over 3 decades, the New Deal allowed working families to own homes, not merely rent them. Home ownership rates rose from roughly 44% in 1940 to 62% by 1960. Okay, the proof's in the pudding. Trump's proposal to extend the same principle to a 50-year mortgage applies this proven logic to the affordability crisis of the 21st century. People can't afford to buy a home. I don't know if it's a good idea. I'd love you to read this article and then write to me at tomz@wethepeopleconvention.org or info@wethepeopleconvention.org and tell me what you think, because I didn't like it till I read that article. Now, I don't know. Again, Trump is no fool. Trump's not some damn politician who never had a real job in their life, okay, and just pulls these things out that are like Newsome, that are just lies just to get your vote, right? That's not what Trump does. Trump knows his shit. I just said he's a brilliant financial mind. He demonstrates it every day. So don't think he's just throwing this out there because he's stupid. Because Donald Trump's a hell of a lot smarter than me. And I better be careful before I question that. Okay? So anyway, take a look at that article. Let me know what you think. All right, a couple more stories in the first half of the podcast, and then we'll wrap it up, take a break, and do the second half. Got some really good things in the second half. So there was a turning point event at Cal Berkeley, and sure enough, it turned into a riot. And it was a disgrace, and it should never have happened. Now, the good news is the event went on. Now, thousands of people were in the hall for the turning point event, but thousands more could not get in because Antifa shut it down. Conservatives descend on UC Berkeley. Now the feds are investigating. Protests that erupted Monday in response to the conservative political group Turning Point USA's event at UC Berkeley have caught the attention of President Donald Trump's Department of Justice. On Tuesday, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon launched an investigation into the demonstrations, describing them on an ex post as a mob assault and thuggish intimidation of attendees exercising their rights to free speech. Dillon, Civil Rights Division, will be probing potential failures at UC Berkeley and any who has enabled such violence, she said. The demonstrations against the event, which hosted conservative figures including actor Rob Schneider, led to several arrests. The conservative group was founded by the late activist Charlie Kirk, an advocate for the right-wing policies on college campuses. Kirk was assassinated by a gunman in September. In a letter addressed at UC Berkeley on Tuesday, Dillon requested communications from the university board members and administrators relating to the Turning Point event, policies and manuals about campus speakers, and all video and audio recordings by the school of the protest Monday. Dillon said, and this is important, she was investigating whether the school violated the University of California's commitment to providing adequate security in response to a 2018 settlement involving another conservative group. The law firm Dillon founded sued UC Berkeley in 2016 over allegations of suppressing conservative speech on campus. Now, why is that important? You, our donors, the We the People Convention, we were funding Harmeet Dillon in 2016, 17, 18, when she was fighting about the COVID restrictions, and she was fighting UC Berkeley. She got a settlement with them in 2016, 2018, and they may have violated that. She's going to bring the hammer down on those SOBs because she said quite correctly, if this was a lefty, if it was Jasmine Crockett or OAC going to speak there would have been all kinds of police. Nothing would have happened. The police presence was pathetic. They didn't stop anything, and they should have. Go, Harmeet, go. Bring them down, man. Just sue the hell out of them. And charge some of their administrators. Personally, make them feel the pain. So I've told you, we're at war with Antifa. We need to get their funders. We need to shut them down. And this is part of that. And then, we've got, they named Antifa, the Trump administration, DOJ, has named them a domestic terrorist group. But we had said they need to be a foreign terrorist group, like Hamas, like ISIS, because they're a global leftist group that basically incites riots and creates violence. It happened. This week, it happened. It's awesome. Coming for Antifa. State Department officially designates 4 Euro groups as global terrorists. This is important. We've seen the coddling of violent anarchist group Antifa here in the United States as the Democrats pretend it doesn't really exist because they're their brown search, right? They're not going to say Antifa is real. It's an imagination. It's a figment of your imagination. Antifa is just an idea. Yeah, congressmen and senators, lefty Democrat communists have said that on the record. They have lied to you on the record to protect these pieces of crap. But they ain't protect them anymore. Despite their regular acts of brutality against ICE officers and anyone who doesn't agree with them. The loosely organized group also operates in Europe, and now the U.S. State Department is calling them for what they are, foreign terrorist organizations. The State Department will designate 4 Antifa-linked groups operating in Europe as foreign terrorist organizations, and specifically designated global terrorists, putting them among the likes of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah. The decision marks the first time the government has applied foreign terrorist designations to Antifa-linked groups, expanding President Donald Trump's previous domestic terrorism directive to an international scale. The four Antifa-aligned cells that active in Europe, in Germany, Italy, and Greece are accused of organizing or carrying out bombings, shootings, and other politically motivated attacks. Missouri Senator Eric Smith lauded the decision in social media Tuesday. What does this move actually mean? It allows the U.S. to go after them where it hurts, in their pocketbooks. The designation requires U.S. financial institutions to freeze assets of FTOs and SDGTs and ban entry of the group's members into the U.S. It allows the U.S. to criminally prosecute those under U.S. jurisdiction who offer material support to these groups or conspire to offer such support. That is what we need to do. That's what you voted for. That's what I voted for. That's awesome. That's awesome. Way to go. Keep it up. Hunt them down like dogs. Take their money. You won't see Antifa anymore because without the money, they can't function. Most of these Antifa people, what are their jobs? The one Antifa guy's getting paid $75,000 a year to harass ICE and attack them. He needs to be locked up. The people funding him need to be locked up. We're on our way. Okay, and then one last story, which is a biggie. BBC apologizes to Trump for misleading viewers with January 6th special edit. Now, you've probably seen this, okay? And if you haven't, it's on X, it's on your social media. The BBC edited the Trump speech from January 6th to make it look like he incited riots. And a group in Britain investigated, proved it, and then announced it, and the BBC has been rocked. Their top people have resigned. It's unbelievable. The BBC has apologized to U.S. President Donald Trump after the UK broadcaster was accused of selectively editing the speech he made on the day of the 2001 Capitol breach. Titled Donald Trump, A Second Chance, ? That was their story. We accept that our edit unintentionally, they said in their statement, created the impression that we were showing a single continuous section of the speech rather than excerpts from different points in the speech, and that this gave the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action, the BBC wrote in its correction and clarification section published on the evening of November 13. The BBC would like to apologize to President Trump that for that error of judgment. The program was not scheduled to be rebroadcast and will not be broadcast again in any form on the BBC platform. This is on a show called The Panorama. The Panorama episode, which aired 1 week before the 2024 election. Election interference. It aired right before the election, spliced together two clips from the speech, creating the impression that Trump said, we're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be with you and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. If in Trump's original remarks, the lines we're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be with you came 15 minutes into the speech. The we will fight like hell line came 54 minutes later. BBC Director General Tim Davie and CEO of News Deborah Thunes announced their resignations on November 9th after the fall of the scandal. Trump praised their decision to exit the BBC in a Truth Social post on the same day. Trump said the top people in the BBC, including Tim Davie, the boss, were all fired because they were caught doctoring my very good, even perfect speech on January 6th, Trump wrote. Trump's attorney, Alejandro Brito, said the broadcaster must issue the retraction, issue an apology, and appropriately compensate President Trump for the harm caused by November 14th, or face a $1 billion lawsuit. They defrauded the public and they admitted, Trump said during a Fox News interview that aired on November 10th, this is within one of our great allies, who's supposed to be our great ally. But here's the problem, folks. This wasn't unintentional. You had to work at it, kids. You had to work at it. And it was right before the election. You think that was an accident? And guess what? This isn't just this wasn't like CNN doing it, one agency doing it to their audience. The BBC is the only news in England. And guess what? It's global. It's covered globally. The damage done, not just to President Trump, but to you and I, to us, to the American people, is more than $1 billion. And I heard this morning that now they're going to sue for $5 billion. And you know what? That's a good way to cut the deficit. Let's take that money and cut the deficit, our spending. And let's sue all the other countries, because guess what? There was a thing on X this morning that I reposted of France did the same thing. Every one of these people, and you know what? All the American broadcasters are shaking in their boots because Trump has already won. How many lawsuits? CBS, he got $15 million or something. And ESPN or YouTube paid him. Keep going. Bring them down. Crush them. You cannot allow people to lie about America and get away with it. But represent us, President Trump. The American people were slandered, not just you, and it was intentional. Bring the BBC to its knees. Bankrupt them. Bankrupt them. Make sure you share that video, okay, on X, or any other social media where you find it. Make sure people know. All right, that's enough for the first half of the podcast, okay? We hope you've enjoyed what we presented. We hope you will take the actions that we suggest. Those will be listed on our podcast page in this week's action items. So it will remind you, protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity by acting on the information we're giving you. Okay? We're going to take a short break. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion, weekly news and opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. We'll see you after these short announcements. The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button. And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. What, something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. So if you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. And it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share,
this, whatever you see, if you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday, so if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday, and in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot.
All right, and we're back for the second half of our podcast. We appreciate you sticking with us because we've got some really good things here. And in that, talk about our website and things, and talk about the podcast page, and that you can watch our show on Roku TV, on on Rumble, on YouTube. We are on YouTube again. We're on Facebook again. We're out there at Tom's EWTPC or We the People Convention. Be sure to share this information with people so they can, help us fight. The more people who watch the podcast, the more people who call their congressman or visit their senator, or, send messages to President Trump at, whitehouse.gov and say, hey, do this, do that. We need to fight for our freedom and liberty. It's not free, right? It's not free. So make sure you share our podcast. And if you can donate, if you have the wherewithal in these tough times, we could use the donations. Things are down pretty significantly, and it's starting to, I think, affect our ability to continue operations. So if you have the ability to give, we sure appreciate it. It's important. We're going to have a real challenge in 2026. We must win. We must win in the midterms, and so anything you can give will help us do that. Okay, so in the second half, we tend to get a little wider and do stories that are less connected and include international and all that stuff. So this is an important story for you to know about. U.S. aircraft carrier nears Venezuela and flex of American military power. It didn't just near it, it's there right now, and this is no fooling around. The most advanced U.S. aircraft carrier in the United States is off the coast of Venezuela, with a flex of American military power not seen in Latin America for generations. Experts disagree on the possibility that American warplanes will catapult off the USS Gerald Ford to bomb targets inside Venezuela and further pressure authoritarian President Nicolas Maduro to step down. Still, whether it may serve that purpose, or only patrols the Caribbean as the U.S. blows up boats it's accusing of drug trafficking, the presence of a 100,000-ton warship alone is sending a message. Yeah, you bet it is. This is the anchor of what it means to have U.S. military power once again in Latin America, said Elizabeth Dickinson, the International Crisis Group senior analyst for the Andes region. And it has raised a lot of anxieties in Venezuela, but also throughout the region. I think everyone is watching this with sort of bated breath to see just how willing the U.S. is to really use force. The Ford's impending arrival is a major moment in the Trump administration's campaign in South America, which is described as a counter-drug operation. It escalates the already massive buildup of military firepower in the region, which added pressure from bombers training runs near the Venezuelan coast, CIA operations that have been publicly authorized inside the country, and boat strikes throughout the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific that have already killed 75 people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Thursday formally named the mission Operation Southern Spear, emphasizing the growing significance and permanence of the military presence in the region. Trump administration says its focus is fighting drug trafficking. Secretary of State Marco Rubio insists that President Trump is focused on stopping drugs from entering the U.S. by combating organized criminal narco terrorists, which is Maduro. He's a narco terrorist, okay? That's what he has authorized. That's the military is doing. That's why our assets are here. But Rubio also says the U.S. doesn't recognize Maduro, who is widely accused of stealing last year's election. He stole it, okay, as the leader of Venezuela, and called the government a transshipment organization which openly cooperates with those trafficking drugs to the United States. The goal is to get rid of Maduro, but also, folks, the goal is to stop China's influence in the region. We have been at war with China for years. They have been at war with us. We haven't recognized that we are at war with them because they bought off all our politicians. Don't believe me? You people are new. Go to wethepeopleconvention.org, right on the front page, and click the button that says Democrats are owned by the Chinese. Republicans are too. You'll see hundreds of links showing every Democrat you ever heard of getting money from China. That's why we haven't defended ourselves. That's why they're spying on us. That's why they're doing all this stuff to us. They're at war with us. They moved into South America because Biden and Obama let them. They were controlling the Panama Canal until Trump stepped in as soon as he got sworn into office in January. We are now fighting China. These are China proxies. That's why we have military force there, to counter China. Keep it clear, but understand there is real opportunity for us fighting. Now, Trump has been the peace president, right? He started no wars in his first administration. He's ended like 8 wars and is working on the Ukraine thing. We'll talk about that here in a second, okay? But is this going to be the first war he starts? I don't know. Just be aware, they ain't fooling around. Trump ain't fooling around in the Caribbean. He's going to do stuff to stop the drugs from killing Americans. No one else gave a damn that your kids were killed. Your relatives were killed by fentanyl. Didn't care. 10, 20 years, they've been killing us. No one did a damn thing. Donald Trump knows war when he sees it, and he's fighting back. And that's what I voted for. That's what you voted for. Okay, so speaking of our China allies, right? Our allies. Yeah, right. China accuses U.S. of orchestrating 13 billion Bitcoin hack. I had to show that because every week I show you stories of China spying on us, China stealing our secrets, China doing something to attack us. And they are. I could have given you 30 stories this week, okay? But I rarely show you how we fight back. So I thought this story was kind of good. China's cybersecurity agency accused the American government of orchestrating the theft of about $13 billion worth of Bitcoin, representing China's most recent attempt to attribute major cyber attacks to the U.S. The theft of 127,272 Bitcoin tokens from the Luban Bitcoin mining pool that took place in December of 2020 ranks as one of the largest crypto heists in history. The hack is likely a state-level hacker operation led by the U.S. according to the Chinese National Computer Virus Emergency Response Center, which said the quiet and delayed movement of the stolen Bitcoin suggests a government-level action rather than typical criminal behavior. A report published last week links the stolen Bitcoin with Luban, once one of the largest Bitcoin mining operations in the world, with tokens were confiscated by the U.S. government, which U.S. said are associated with Chen Zi, the chairman of Cambodia's conglomerate Prince Group. Anyway, the bottom line is, I'm glad to see we're fighting back. And boy, I thought cryptocurrency was secure and you couldn't steal it. Wonder what happened with that. Yeah, apparently not so. One for our side. Good. Fight back. They hate us. They're trying to destroy us. So speaking of Ukraine, funny how all the news, there's hardly any news about Ukraine all of a sudden, right? Funny how that is. And Russia's been pounding the crap out of them, okay? But what story comes out this week? Oh, yeah. Major corruption scandal engulfs top Zelensky allies. Ukraine's energy and justice ministers have resigned in the wake of a major investigation into corruption in the country's energy sector. Wow, can you say Burisma? Can you say Joe Biden? Can you say that Ukraine has been the most corrupt country in Europe for decades? and that all the $500 billion that we sent there, half of it's been stolen and put in their accounts. Zelensky's wife is traveling around the world in luxury on our dime. Oh yeah, but you're not a patriot if you criticize. You're pro-Russia. You're a Putin stooge if you call us out. Yeah, well, explain this to me. President Vladimir Zelensky called for Energy Minister Svitka Gunchuk and Justice Minister Herman Halashenko removal on Wednesday. On Monday, anti-corruption bodies accused several people of orchestrating the embezzlement scheme in the energy sector worth about $100 million, including the national nuclear operator Ether Hotam. Some of these implicated in a scandal are or have been close associates of Zelensky, don't you know? The allegation is that Justice Minister Herman Halenko and other key ministers and officials received payments from contractors building fortifications against Russian attacks on energy infrastructure. Yeah, I bet they did. And who gave that money to them to defend their energy infrastructure? Yeah, you and I did. And yeah, the Republican rhinos, Lindsey Graham and those guys, yeah, all those guys have been making money off of Ukraine for years. Remember when Lindsey Graham went to Ukraine and told their soldiers that the U.S. soldiers will fight alongside you if you just take on Russia? Yeah. They all should go to prison, including Lindsey Graham. Okay. So then, we've got, the aircraft carriers in Venezuela. We got China, still attacking us. We got the Ukraine war. We got all the international stuff. But this story is domestic, and it's about the whole voter fraud thing. Okay? The Biden Democratic machine literally handed out millions of Social Security numbers to illegal aliens so they could vote. Arizona just started cleaning up the mess, removing nearly 50,000 non-citizens who registered without proof of U.S. citizenship. And we were saying this. And they were saying, oh, it's conspiracy theories and you're a liar. And oh yeah, we didn't let 10 million, 12 million, 15 million illegals in so we could win the elections. We could steal the votes, right? We didn't do that. Yes, you did. And here's the proof, okay? Listen to what Stephen Miller has to say, because he's caught them.
Democrats want illegal aliens to vote. It's why Joe Biden and his administration gave millions, we verified this now, millions with an M, of illegal aliens Social Security numbers. And once you have a Social Security number, it is incredibly easy to vote, to collect welfare, to get free government benefits, to participate in every aspect of American life. This isn't a mystery. They want illegals to steal elections, Sean.
It's that simple. They want illegals so they can steal elections. And so his group, America First Legal, which we the People Convention, with your donations, help support, have done for a long time. When we were in our darkest times, America First Legal was suing and doing great jobs. America First Legal had to sue all 15 Arizona counties because they ignored the law requiring proof of citizenship and regular voter roll checks. Now, only after that lawsuit, every county is being forced to work with DHS to verify who actually is allowed to vote. Bottom line, Katie Hobbs and Adrian Fontes didn't protect democracy. They got caught rigging it, and it had to be dragged kicking and screaming to obey the law. Thank you, Stephen Miller. He's been fighting the fight way before he got back in the Trump administration. He's an American hero. He's a patriot. But understand, things are going to change. We talked about Harmeet Dillon is suing all the blue states because they have to provide their voter rolls. Because the federal law says illegals can't vote in federal elections. Therefore, they shouldn't be on your voter rolls. And the blue states don't want to give up the voter rights. Oh, it's privacy. My ass. You're covering up for the illegals, millions of them. We're going to get that before next year, and it's going to cripple the Democrat cheating machine. Stephen Miller won a big victory there. So this is another thing that we're doing. Trump sues to block California's congressional redistricting plan, right? Prop 50, the plan to take 5 more congressional seats away from Republicans in California, passed overwhelmingly. Oh, what a surprise that was. How many illegal votes you think were in that that Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, right? So Trump is suing them. The DOJ is suing them. Race cannot be used as a proxy to advance political interests, but that is precisely what the California General Assembly did with Proposition 50, the DOJ lawsuit says. The lawsuit could influence control of the U.S. House in the 2026 midterms. The Department of Justice announced Thursday that it's suing to block California's newly approved congressional district boundaries, setting the stage for a legal battle that could shape the 2026 midterms. Filed in federal court, the lawsuit seeks to challenge Proposition 50, a constitutional amendment passed by California voters that temporarily suspends the state's redistricting commission, allowing the legislature to redraw the lines. They redrew the lines according to race, and that court case is in front of the Supreme Court, and I think we're going to win that, and maybe Mr. Newsom's not going to get what he thought he got. We'll see about that. So as long as we're on Newsome in California, and what a shit show that is, Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff was indicted on public corruption charges. Oh, yeah, but Gavin Newsom, he's going to be president of the United States. Oh, yeah, that's who you want as president of the United States. The most failed governor ever, okay? And here's more proof. California Governor Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff, Dana Williams' son, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 23 charges related to public corruption, according to a November 12th statement from the Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney Eric Grant alleged that Williamson, 53, of Carmichael, California, committed bank and wire fraud, conspired to defraud the government, obstruct justice, filed false tax returns, and made false statements to investigators. This is a crucial step in an ongoing political corruption investigation that began more than 3 years ago, Grant said in the statement. As it always has, U.S. Attorney's Office will continue to work tirelessly with our law enforcement partners to protect the people of California from political corruption. Well, you're doing a pretty shitty job, because all you got in California is political corruption. According to the charges, Williamson allegedly helped divert about $225,000 in funds from a dormant political campaign to an associate's personal account using a money laundering scheme to fund a no-show job between February 2022 and September 2024. She is also charged with conspiring to create illegitimate backdated contracts to thwart federal investigation. So two of Newsom's compatriots are in big trouble, okay? But yeah, he wants to be president of the United States. Well, you would vote for him if you knew this, right? You want a guy, President Trump's drill, baby, drill, bringing gas prices down, all that stuff. Yeah, what's happening in California where Gavin Newsom is governor, lining up for gas in California? California has the trendiest and most foolish energy policies in the U.S. The result is a return to the early 70s when drivers lined up around the block hoping and praying that gasoline wouldn't run out before they got to the pumps. California's oil industry now sits on the precipice of complete collapse, says Edward Ring, Director of Water and Energy Policy at the California Policy Center. And if that happens, more imports will not prevent lines at the pump, because California has all these rules for these special blends that nobody else makes, so you can't even ship it in. How could California, which has the sixth most proved oil reserves in the country, be looking over the edge at a gasoline crisis? How could that happen? They got gasoline, oil everywhere. California is hurtling toward the gas panic of 2025 because it has been at war with fossil fuels for decades. In the case of motor fuel, the state's legislature has de-incentivized the production, distribution, and refining of oil in California, while cities and counties have followed suit. 2 refineries are closing their facilities. The companies that own them have determined that it has become too difficult to do business in California, which is hostile to energy companies, and are sucking up taxpayer-provided dollars to build politically reserved, preferred solar and wind projects. By this time next year, the Pacific Research Institute says there might not be even a dozen refineries left in the state to produce the 38 million gallons of gas California boutique blends that the consumers need every day. A quarter of a century ago, there were 23 refineries in California, 40 in 1983. They're going to be down to a dozen. On Sunday, California had the highest gasoline prices in the nation, $4.71 a gallon. As painful as that is, it might be considered a bargain by next summer when gasoline could hit as much as $8 a gallon. Oh yeah, vote for Gavin Newsom for president, because look at California, man. That's the success you and I want. That's what America's waiting for, because you can believe Gavin Newsom. He'll tell you the truth in his stupid commercials and his social media posts, which are just lies, right? Gavin Newsom, the next Democrat fraud, the next Barack Obama, a complete liar. Okay? And then, speaking of California liars, gotta love this one. Swalwell hit with criminal referral to DOJ over potential, what? Mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud. What happened? Representative Eric Swalwell has been hit with a federal criminal referral for alleged mortgage and tax fraud related to the purchase of a $1.2 million home in Washington, D.C. The alleged fraud pertains to Swalwell's Washington residence with a referral confirmed on Wednesday. The referral could lead to an investigation into potential mortgage, insurance, and tax fraud, with the FAA's Inspector General already probing the matter. Okay, so Swalwell's like, this is just political. Yeah, I knew this was going to happen because it's just, politics. Folks, those who are older may remember, that Al Capone, the mobster from the, early 1900s, 20th century, they couldn't get him for all his crimes. The guy was running drugs, gambling, prostitution, all kinds of stuff. They couldn't get him. They finally got him and all his compatriots on income tax fraud. I think mortgage fraud is the new income tax fraud. We got Swalwell, we got Latifah James, Nan, what's her name? Letitia James, Nan keeps correcting me. We got, what's his name? Shifty Schiff. All on mortgage fraud. We don't care how you get them. Just get them. Now, again, those on the left, you people watching this because you're trying to do opposition research, Tom Z just said, go get them. Not out of politics, not out of revenge, because they're criminals. Get them because they're criminals. These are not made up. Latifah James has got mortgage documents that she signed, and she's a lawyer. This guy said his official home is in Washington, D.C., and yet he's an elected representative in California. You got to live in your state. The document says he doesn't, and he doesn't. That's against the law. They went after Steve Bannon. They went after Donald Trump. They went after Navarro. They went after all these guys that were Trump associates. They didn't break any laws. They didn't break any laws. It was all lawfare. This is laws. When I say go get them, I mean for justice, not revenge. Understand that. That's all we want is equal justice under the law for everyone. We sure as hell don't have that in this country, and we don't have it yet until convictions start to happen on these guys. Okay, so then I want to make clear, because so much good is happening, we get complacent. And it's hard in this show to keep bringing it up. So like ICE, I haven't mentioned ICE for a while, okay? And then the FBI did say some things last week about what they're doing. So I want to highlight this just because it's a good story. Operation Dirtbag. ICE arrests over 150 criminal illegal aliens, sex predators in Florida crackdown. This is a good story. The Department of Homeland Security announced they arrested more than 150 illegal alien sex offenders during a major enforcement surge across the state of Florida. The operation was conducted with our state and local law enforcement partners. The operation targeted child predators, rapists, and violent criminals. Let me have Kristi Noem tell you about this, because this is what we voted for. This is what makes your life better. This is what protects your kids and your families. This is law and order versus defund the police. This is awesome.
This operation was called Operation Criminal Return. I call it Operation Dirtbag, because these individuals were sex offenders, but not just sex offenders. They targeted children. So sexual assault, battery, attempted homicide. These 150 individuals will be gone off of our streets. Our kids will be safer. And this partnership with Governor DeSantis in Florida is a model that we want to replicate across the country. These individuals should have never been in our country to begin with. The fact that they were sexual deviants and perverts, and now we've gotten them off of our streets, it's remarkable, and we need to do more of it.
Yeah, we need to do more of it. We need to keep going. And it's a model that we want to replicate. And there was good news to also that Trump is going to send National Guard into Charlotte. We talked about that, and into New Orleans. There were House members calling for, because the crime rate in Charlotte, North Carolina is out of control, and the Democratic governor wouldn't bring in the Guard. He's going to do that. This is what we voted for. It's awesome. This was a good story, though it was mostly symbolic. Trump pardons Rudy Giuliani and 76 others accused of attempting to overturn the 2020 election. So this is long overdue, but I'm glad he did it. U.S. pardon attorney Ed Martin posted on X late Sunday that pardon will include Rudy Giuliani, attorneys Sidney Powell, John Eastman, and Kenneth Chesebro, and Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. I, Donald Trump, do hereby grant a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all United States citizens for conduct relating to the advice, creation, organization, execution, submission, support, voting activities participated in, or advocacy for or any proposed slate of presidential electors, whether or not recognized by any state or state official, in connection with the 2020 presidential election, as well as for any conduct relating to their efforts to expose voter fraud and vulnerabilities in the 2020 presidential election, the proclamation said. Presidential pardons cover federal crimes, and none of these people have been convicted of federal crimes. So it's kind of like Joe Biden pardoning people before they were charged with a crime. But these people were charged under state statutes. But here's the deal. This is a preventive measure, because if, God forbid, the Democrats would ever come back into control, they would go back and use those charges to convict these people under federal law. Okay, this prevents that. So thank you, President Trump. That's good stuff. We really appreciate it. Okay, this is another good story and thing we appreciate. And it just shows you now we're on the 2026 clock, right? We just had the 2024-5 election. Now it's all about the midterms. And leading pro-life group announces $80 million investment in the midterms. I was glad to see this. It's a wake-up call for me to start thinking about what we're going to do as an organization. Leading pro-life organization, Susan B. Anthony, who we've worked with, they're a good group. They've got good leadership, and they obviously have good financial support. Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, and Women Speak Out PAC announced an $80 million investment on Wednesday in the 2026 midterm elections. The massive funding dump is aimed at retaining pro-life majorities in the U.S. House and Senate, with a focus on battleground states like Iowa, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina. The organization announced in a press release. The plan will make 4.5 million visits to voters at their homes in those states. All 4 states are Senate battlegrounds and contain key House battleground districts. Further, the effort includes deploying student teams into a dozen of the most competitive House battleground districts across the country. SBA Pro-Life America said it has a goal of reaching 10.5 million voters across the country through canvassing, digital advertising, voter contact, mail, and a robust early vote campaign as the races progress. The field teams will specifically target pro-life voters who do not consistently participate in midterm elections, as well as what organizations call persuadable voters. Republicans simply cannot win without their pro-life base, especially in the midterm elections when overall turnout drops. Pro-life voters are the heart and soul of the Republican Party, said Marjorie Densfessler, president of SBA Pro-Life America. Okay. I've said to you, we did the story. Go to our website, wethepeopleconvention.org, and look up the story about Christians voting. If Christians vote, Democrats can never win another election anywhere in this country. 40% of Christians either are not registered or do not vote. That has to change. Charlie Kirk is doing a lot to help that change, and Turning Point, okay, because of the Christian revival he ignited in our country. But I asked you before, and this is another ask, because we have to fight every day to protect our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. And part of that fight is everyone you know who is a Christian, you must get them registered to vote, and you must get them to vote. It's a moral obligation. We're fighting Satan. We're not fighting Democrats. We aren't fighting just the left. We're not fighting just communism and Marxism and Islamism. We're fighting Satan. It's a biblical fight. Christians need to rise up and defeat Satan. Next year will be the test. And God will be watching. I promise you that. This is kind of an interesting story for those of us who are old as I am and whose fathers and grandfathers collected coins and stuff like that. The penny ends its 232-year run of production. Okay? The United States federal government ceased minting pennies on Wednesday, ending the coin's 232-year use in the country. A final run of pennies was struck at the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, with Treasurer of the United States Brandon Beach marking the occasion, saying, "God bless America, and we're going to save the taxpayers $52 million." Okay? Because it was costing us more money to print a penny than a penny is worth. And so Trump said, what the hell are we doing? And so I've got this little video for you that'll try to bring this home.
Era for the penny. The Treasury Department is phasing out the 1-cent coin after more than 200 years. It's got a lot of sentimentality in this, I think. Fox Business's Edward Lawrence is at the U.S. Mint in Philly. One of my first trips with my parents was to a copper mine where they made mined copper for the penny. I just remembered that.
Yeah. And yet copper is part of the problem with the penny price increases. What did in the penny, and the last penny will be minted today inside the U.S. Mint here in Philadelphia. They minted 2.3 billion pennies in fiscal year 2024, but no more after today. The cost of the penny to make it is actually 3.7 cents, penny only worth 1 cent, and that's material and production costs. The U.S. Mint lost $85.3 million in fiscal year 2024 making pennies. So back in February, President Trump called out the waste on the penny and directed the Treasury Secretary to take steps that led to today. Get rid of the penny.
Okay, so good fiscal sense. Now, important for you to know, pennies are still legal currency. So you can pay for things with pennies. And I'm going to ask my bank if I can just take all my pennies and give it to them to get rid of them. But if you have pennies, and I know many of you have jars with pennies in them, you can still use them. But then it's done. Okay, and another change happens in our lives. I can remember my father collecting, Indy hen heads and stuff like that, nickels and quarters, and had a great collection, and the penny was part of it. So just another change in our society as we move down the road. Okay, and this is, again, part of the future. I give a lot of coverage to Elon Musk and SpaceX. Full disclosure. Nan and I have stock in Tesla. We talked about that when Tesla was way down, when they were burning Tesla dealerships, and we bought Tesla stock to support Elon Musk, and so he gets a lot of credit because he deserves it, because his SpaceX is doing amazing things. However, he's not the only one, and it's important that he have competition, because we are capitalists and we believe in competition. And what's wrong with America is we have a lot of crony capitalism. Right? Rigged capitalism. Too many single groups owning everything. Not enough competition, because antitrust has been forgotten by our government because they all get paid off. So this was good news. Blue Origin, New Glenn rocket blasts off with Mars satellites in tow. Blue Origin is owned by Amazon's Jeff Bezos and is a competitor to Elon Musk. Blue Origin successfully launched its massive New Glenn rocket on Thursday following days of delays, with its spacecraft carrying NASA's twin satellites bound for Mars. Thursday's mission marked a second flight for billionaire Jeff Bezos' 321-foot-long spacecraft, with the rocket soaring over Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Along with carrying blue and gold satellites for NASA's Escapades mission, Blue Origin also successfully landed the New Glenn booster back to Earth, just like Musk does with SpaceX. The whole key to making space affordable is reusable, rockets. You can't just throw them away like we did all the time. And so they did what Musk did, a key feature for the reusable rocket that will allow the company to compete with Elon Musk's SpaceX. Named after astronaut John Glenn, the New Glenn rocket is 5 times bigger than the New Shepard ships that have been sent wealthy clients into space. Bezos has touted his rocket as the future of spaceflight over rival spaceflight, and with the New Glenn mission aimed at achieving a landmark mission to Mars. So, a little competition shows America is ahead in the space game, and we better be, because the Chinese are trying to take advantage, to take the ownership of space. There's our new space race on. We need all the people we can get with good brains and lots of money to help fight that. So that was good news. This next story is important, because, and I'm going to get a little serious here at the end of the podcast. So please, I know it's been a long podcast, but I need you to really pay attention here as I close out the show. This is about housing. 3 top reasons housing has become so unaffordable in the U.S. market, and it's not what you think. So I will post this story so you will share it, but we need to understand, we have got to get housing costs down. We need to build more houses, and we need to lower interest rates, and we need to help young people buy homes. All right, we've been talking about it, you've been hearing it, but this is an interesting story. Brick by brick, regulation by regulation, America built its own housing crisis. Experts say the problem is cemented into the foundation of the U.S. housing system, a design flaw decades in the making. They point to 3 major forces doing the most damage: restrictive zoning, land use barriers, and financial policies that have choked supply and pushed prices out of reach. There are just so many ways to halt and stop development, said Joseph Greco, professor of real estate and finance at Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. And we've gotten very good at doing all of those. The resistance to new construction, experts say, is why restrictive zoning and regulatory barriers top the list of forces driving Americans' housing crisis. Jim Tobin, president and CEO of the National Association of Home Builders, said the cost of regulations alone play a massive role in housing affordability. Get this now. Regulatory burdens really do add up on the unaffordability index, Tobin told Fox News Digital. We estimate that 24% of cost of a single family home is embedded in regulations at all 3 levels, local, state, and federal. That comes out to roughly $94,000 in regulatory costs to building a home. He said some local governments intentionally restrict growth, adding both time and cost to the process. Sometimes there are communities that just regulate because they want to stop growth. They don't want more homes built. That's wrong. We got to fix that. You have to talk to your county, your city, whoever's involved with these regulations and say, what are you doing to cut them? Sometimes there are communities that just regulate because they want to impede growth. The longer builders wait, Tobin said, the more expensive the projects become. Time is money in real estate. Those mounting costs on builders, economists say, ultimately price out buyers and stifle new construction. E.J. Antoni, chief economist at the Heritage Foundation, said the U.S. housing market won't recover until building gets easier and borrowing costs come down. The best way to thaw this frozen housing market, he said, is to reduce government spending to relieve pressure on interest rates, cut the budget, and roll back burdensome regulations. He added that such steps would in turn increase production of new homes. We're doing it to ourselves intentionally. Wake the hell up. You and I, as people who want to improve our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, must fight this fight. Go talk to your local zoning people. Go talk to your county commissioners. Talk to your city councilmen, your mayors, and say, what are you doing to remove obstacles? We are the problem. We've met the enemy. It is us. Share that article at our podcast page at wethepeopleconvention.org and talk with people about it. We got to fix it. We can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot. It kills you. And if we don't make housing affordable, folks, Mondami in New York and the nut job who just won the race for mayor, the socialist who won the mayor of Seattle race, who still has her parents helping pay her expenses, is now the mayor of Seattle. They're going to keep winning because we are killing the American dream with our policies and regulations. If we don't remake the American dream, folks, why would anyone want to be American? Why would you and I want to be Americans? That's what we're fighting for. Do you see how you play a direct role? But if you don't watch this podcast, you don't know what the problem is, so how are you going to help fix it? I just told you how. Do it this week. Just make a call. Hey, what's going on to help housing in our city? What are you doing to cut regulation? Talk to builders, find out what their problems are, and then help advocate to get it fixed. We know how to fight. You guys in the Tea Party, we know how to do this. We know this drill. That's what we do. It's not all just politics, okay? It's also about economics. Okay, so this story needs to have your attention. Job prospects for 2026 college grads hits 5-year low while employers eye AI and foreign labor. Okay? I've been warning about this. I've been talking about this. AI is not going to hurt the low income people, the high school graduates, the community college graduates. It's going to hurt the college graduates. And their layoffs are huge. Okay? I just heard this morning, I think, that Amazon's laying off 7,000 people in New York. Okay, Mandami, how's that going to work out for you? Job prospects are at an all-time low. The outlook for college graduating class of 2026 has dimmed sharply as data shows employers' hiring plans have stalled. Job markets ratings have slipped and workforce competition has intensified due to automation and visa-based visa programs like HB1 visas, which Trump is taking a lot of heat on again this week, and deservedly so. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, based on data from the National Association of Colleges and Employers project the job market for 2026 graduates to be the weakest in a half decade. A survey conducted among 183 companies found that 51% of respondents rated the job market for new graduates as poor or fair, a sentiment not seen at this level since the COVID-era downturn of 2021. Only 2% of employees rated the market as excellent. The hiring slowdown follows a wave of large-scale layoffs from major employers, including Amazon, UPS, Verizon, Google, and others, who are cutting jobs all over the place for AI. Okay, so President Trump got into some trouble with us, and I asked you to write to him about him protecting the 300,000. He wants 600,000 Chinese students in our universities to protect colleges. Why in the hell would we want to protect colleges? They work against us. They are indoctrinating people to hate our country, and now they're preparing people to not have the skills to get a job. Okay? We need to force those Chinese students out because Trump thinks it'll close half the colleges. Well, good, because what do we need? We need skilled tradesmen. If you have a son or a grandson or someone who's going to college, ask them, why the hell are you doing it? Because where are you going to get a job? Why are you spending $100,000 to go to a stupid school that indoctrinates you to hate America so you won't have a job? And then you could be on welfare and food stamps and SNAPs, which we're going to take away from you. Okay? I've been on this for a year and a half. Our whole website is full of videos of Mike Rowe and the trade schools and all that. Okay? And I just reposted a video this week. Okay? Go to wethepeopleconvention.org, and there's a video there where Brian Kilby interviews Mike Rowe and the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley. This is a video you need to share. Go to wethepeopleconvention.org and click on the video section, and it's only 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute video, but it's really important because, folks, we have got to, the most important thing that you and I can do to save our country, to protect and defend our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity is to recruit people for the trades. You need to ask the waitress, the waiter, the kid at the car wash, the person at the auto place, the people who are doing your lawns, to your beautician, whoever, underemployed people who can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. In that video, Mike Rowe says, he said, I'm not lying to you. He said, I finally got to go to a data center. And while I was there, I ran into two kids, guys who were under 30, who were electricians. Both of them told Mike Rowe, that they had been poached 3 times already in the last 2 years, and they're making like $200,000 a year, and they're under 30. Okay? We need a whole of nation plan to recruit 10 million tradesmen. 10 million, Tom, that's a huge number. That's 3% of the frickin' able-bodied men and women in our country. 3%. We can do this. We have to do this. And I need Trump to get the message. So write to him, go to whitehouse.gov and click on the comment thing, and you can write to Trump. We need to lose half our colleges. Let me put this in perspective for those who are older, and those who are younger, you can go look this up. After World War II, we had millions of men who fought the war, went all over the world, who came back home, and we gave them the GI Bill because we needed workers to go to college to fund, to fill the jobs that were coming in the next 50 years. The jobs in not just technology, but in pharmaceuticals, the agriculture business was going to turn, manufacturing. We needed these people to get college educated. We paid for them to go to college. We need a GI Bill for the trades because Trump is bringing these huge car manufacturing plants and pharmaceutical plants and all this. We have to build them. We have to build these AI centers. We have to build the energy infrastructure. Who the hell is going to do it? We need President Trump to go on TV, a national TV address to say, every able-bodied man and woman who's retired or underemployed needs to go to a trade school. And here's a list of the trade schools. Here's a website where you can go. The guy in this video, Farley, says he has 5,000 jobs at Ford right now that pay over $100,000 a year, and he's got no one to fill them. He said, we have over 1 million openings in critical jobs, emergency services, trucking, factory workers, plumbers, electricians, and tradesmen. It's a very serious thing. And we don't have enough trade schools. We are not investing in educating the next generation of people like my grandfather who had nothing, who built a middle class life because we gave him the education he needed to get the job. As of this morning at Ford, we had 5,000 openings. A bay with a lift and tools and no one to work in it, he said, referring to job position at Ford. It's a $120,000 a year job, but it takes you 5 years to learn it. Take a diesel out of a Super Duty. It takes a lot of skill to work on engines. You need to know what you're doing. But we can train people. We can train people to do that. According to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were 409,000 manufacturing jobs openings in August in our country with no one to fill them because we haven't made it a frickin' priority. Okay? But here's the thing. You can learn a trade in 6 months. You can get an internship where you're getting paid to do work on construction jobs while you're going to school. This isn't like a 4-year vacation. This is quick. We need to do this. You and I need to do this. I'm serious. Everything depends on it. The Chinese are going to kick our butts. We can't win the AI race if we can't build the power plants to fuel the AI plants, data centers, to win the AI race. The whole world's counting on it. Your life, your future, your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity are directly tied to this ask I'm making of you. So I'm asking you to go to wethepeopleconvention.org, watch this 10-minute video, and share it with everyone. Along with, in that story, I've got a link that says, what have you done today to recruit someone to join the skilled trades? I'm serious as a heart attack. And I've had a heart attack, so I know how serious that is. This is your calling. Step up and actually defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. I know you will. I know you can, because you're smart and you're tough and you love this country and you're never going to give up. But I'm helping to direct you to the things that matter the most. This is what matters the most. There's a lot of other asks I have in the show. You can do those too. You can walk and chew gum. But that's why you watch this program. That's why you donate to support the We the People Convention. That's why you got to help me get this out to a whole lot more people. Okay? All right. So we're going to wrap it up. You know, we are always going to remember Charlie Kirk. We will fulfill his mission by completing America's spiritual revival. And that's what we're going to do. That's what I said. This is a fight against Satan. It's not about politics. Okay? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to stay true to Charlie's vision, what he taught us. You got to tell other people about this podcast. And if I said something wrong, if you want to argue with me, if you got an idea for a story that we didn't cover, if I missed something big, write to me. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. And those of you who are new to this podcast, if you've never written to me, I need you to write to me. I need to know who you are and need to know that you're out there. Just drop a short text. Hey, I love your show. I hate it. You know, whatever. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. I need to hear from more of you. There's not enough of you who write to me, and that doesn't help me. I represent what you're thinking. I know what to say because I have a feel for the people in the country, because we have members in every state from all different backgrounds and ethnicities and things. But I got to hear from you. Write to me once in a while. I feel lonely. I want to hear from you. All right, so we're going to wrap up this week's podcast. I hope you have a good week. Be a happy warrior. The things that we have to do that I asked you to do, we can do. Nothing I've asked you to do. Talk to your congressmen and senators. Kill the filibuster, right? Cut the money. Don't pay the back pay. Send the healthcare money directly to citizens. President Trump, get rid of the Chinese students and close these universities. Let's have a national program like the GI Bill for the trades. Let's recruit 10 million tradesmen this year. Ford, Planar, in that video, they talk about Planetar, the defense contract. Those companies are actually creating their own trade schools to recruit high school kids to teach them the jobs they need them to do so they can do their work. That's what your company should do. If your company has the ability that needs tradesmen, let's start a trade school. We are Americans. We solve problems. We don't whine and moan and get defeated because we don't know what to do. We find out what to do and we do it. That's what we're all going to do this week. All right? Have a good week. Be a happy warrior. Come back next week. I hope we'll both be together again. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. May God bless each and every one of you, and may he continue to bless the United States of America. See you next week.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight